Welcome to Let's Play Rome 2 Total War, a new beginning, tips and tricks, how to start. Well, I've did a Let's Play of this series already, but I wasn't as good and as historical as I wanted to be, and that's the reason I'm starting from scratch. I want to tell you more and better things and give you more tips that you can use in your own game. So, let's go. We have a lot of cultures to choose from, each with its own history, from descendants of Carthago, then the remains of the Babylonians, that what remained of Alexander the Great, but of course we're taking the Romans, as this game's name is Rome 2. We're not taking the House of Cornelia, even if we got a tax bonus. We're not taking the House of Julia, even if we got a moral against barbarians, a moral bonus against barbarians. Nearly every culture not Roman counted as barbaric for the Romans. We take the House of Julia, because the bonus on public order and the bonus on wealth from agricultural buildings. Why? More to that later. We're playing that on very hard. The initial challenge is easy because these are the Romans. Let's go. I will not be talking through the loading screens because you cannot hear my voice constantly then. See you then. Bye. So, welcome to Italy, 272 before Christ. This is not the time of the Roman Empire. This is the time of the beginning of the Roman Republic. Before Rome became a republic, it was a kingdom. And their military was more like Greek-style phalanxes and all that. And they did not have professional soldiers. Even the soldiers we now have will not be professionals, so don't expect them to do a hell of a lot of things others can't do. First thing we get is our mission. Our first mission from our Senate is to completely control 2 provinces. We get 2,500 coins for that. What's about coins? In Rome, in the ancient times, there were different currencies over all the times. This ranged from the famous sesterces, the ars, the dinar, the aureus, the semis, and the quadrans. Well, there was a hell of a lot of different currencies over the years and over the centuries. Well, let's start. First of all, this game is turn-based. And my little advice, don't do anything you don't have to do in the wrong order. Meaning, don't buy a lot of things at the beginning of the round that you don't need at the beginning of the round. Meaning, don't push building buildings, don't push buying an army unless you have need for that. So, let's have a look around. We see here the menu, the chat, the Total War Encyclopedia. Very useful, but you can get that by clicking right on most things. The advisor, he gives you tips. First of all, these are not lands anymore, they are provinces. Each province consists of a different number of towns. For example, the middle of Italy consists of 4 towns: Rome, Neapolis, Ariminum and Velarde. 2 of them we control, the other 2 we don't control. You see here, these are the Etruscans. The Etruscans were descendants from settlers from the Middle East. As far as we know, there's little known about the Etruscans since their culture was mainly lost. The Romans adapted most of it. What do we see? Let's start from the left to the right. We see the public order. The public order represents the, how do you say, well, the public order, how the people feel to your order, to your rulership. The higher the better. If it gets below 100, you will have a rebellion. If it gets at 100, that's at If it gets at minus 100, you will get a rebellion. If it gets to plus 100, it cannot go further than that, you will get big bonus. There are different things that influence the faction, the public order. For example, our difficulty level, our buildings, our taxes, our slaves, and a faction bonus. As we are Julians, we have a bonus on faction, on public order by our faction if our culture is Latin, which it is. Sure, it's our home world, homeland. We have food. There's something special about food. Each province produces food into a main basket, you could say. Rome itself was very rarely able to feed his own people, not even the own people of its town. Rome relied on grain and other things, food things, from his empire in order to survive. For example, the Romans themselves had wheat mostly. Their slaves, their gladiators, and their animals eat barley. And so they have a great demand from that. They get most of that from Egypt later on. At the moment, our empire is not that big, so the people have to feed from what they find here. So, a province can have a minus food if the rest of the provinces are producing a positive number. You see that number here. Everything is good. The higher the number in total, the more province growth, population growth in all provinces, and the more unit replenishment in all armies, if you have losses. So it's quite good to keep that number high. Our income is our province wealth, which can be upgraded by buildings, our tax level, which we can upgrade and reduce, has an effect on public order, as you might know. Slaves, you can get slaves from battles. Problem is, the more slaves you have, the lesser is your public order. So that's not that easy to decide. Corruption, well, it's obvious. You can reduce corruption by either research or buildings. Some provinces have special effects. For example, we have the Vesuvian wonder, which means that is a volcano. Makes the people more happy in the fleets and armies, give them a moral boost so they fight longer, and we get a bonus on wealth. And what is not mentioned here, I think, the land prices in a town called Pompeii will drop soon. So, our people are, well, not really interested in our rulership. They're not against it and they're not for it. With this little icons here, we can jump between our provinces. We actually have two, Magna Graecia and Italy. In Magna Graecia, we control as well two of the provinces, the cities, and two are under the control of Syracuse and Carthago. Well, Carthago is an old known enemy from the location of modern Tunis. Some say they are descendants of the Phoenicians. Phoenicians? We Germans say Phoenicia to that. You see this little icon? That means we know something about these guys. We know they are Hellenic, so there are descendants from the Greek. That's because some time ago the Athenians tried to conquer Sicilia, this island here, and it cost them, I think, about 100 times of what the Pantheon costs, but they did it, and that's the remains of that. You see little numbers down here. This is the automated defense, you could say. So you do not need an army in a city in order to protect it. Each city has its own defense, depending on the buildings built in it. You see, this one here has ground forces. Rorari, these are very simple spear fighters. Plebs, well, this is a mob, you might say. And levies, these are guys with throwing spears, no armor and no real training. Neapolis has a harbor, so they get 2 ships as bonus to their defense, and as they do not have this military building, Field of Mars, they have a little less rorari and some more plebs, because they have a temple, which give a bonus on plebs. You see that to the left? So each building has different effects to the economy, to the defense of the city, and to the overall faction abilities from time to time. For example, Spetch owning factions culture in this case. So that is this food I've explained. Very good. So about cities, we have in each province a population surplus. So at the moment we have 5 populations that have no real thing to do, so they need a job. We can build new grounds for buildings here. The more buildings the city already have, the more people it will cost us to build a new building place here. For example, Neapolis has 3, so building another building there will cost us 4 population. Building one more in Rome will cost us only 3 because it's the 3rd building and this is the 4th building. The little yellow arrows here indicate that we can upgrade the building. Upgrading buildings is good on one hand because the buildings are getting better, and as you see the effects are getting stronger. The problem is if the building has a negative effect, the negative effect gets stronger as well. You see, this building uses 2 food, this building uses 5. So we're getting a lot more money, 200 more in gold, more population growth, more whatever, but we also will lose food here. Our field of Mars cannot be upgraded. Why? This little sign here indicates we do not have the technology. We must research. We can demolish a building to build another thing, but we only do that normally if we are in conquered cities. If you conquer a city and the building is not of your own culture, you cannot upgrade it. So in order to build better buildings in conquered cities, you will have to destroy the buildings and build them from scratch. First thing I recommend is use up your population. Why? Because if you have too much a population and the people are getting nuts at you, they will build slums, and this is not quite good for public order. So, you see here is a province that only consists of 2 towns. One is controlled by the Etruscans, our main enemies, and one is controlled by the Carthagins. Oh, what a wonder. So, there are these edicts. They are very important. If you control, well, everything's important in the game. Please forgive me for saying that. With these edicts, you can choose special stances, you might say, for your province. You can only do this in a reduced number or in a special number of times depending on the size of your empire. The bigger your empire is, the more of these edicts you can give per turn. But you have to control the whole province to use that, but it's very, very effective. So, we can look at details on this province. If the province is producing negative food or negative income, we can decide to not tax it. You see? No income, but the people are getting happier. So if we have a province that is very unhappy, this might be a way to get them happy. Culture, sure. Security, how good they find agents. So, this button is for rise forces. Very important. You can rise forces in every town you have. But you can only rise armed forces in towns that have land around them. And you can only raise fleet or admirals at towns that have a harbor. See? We can rise admiral in Neapolis as it has a harbor. We cannot do that in Rome because Rome has no harbor and we cannot build a harbor. Sadly, because we have no access to the sea. The distance is too great. So, next thing, we can recruit agents. At the moment, we cannot recruit any more agents because our empire is not big enough. The bigger the empire, the more agents you can recruit. the more soldiers, the more armies you can recruit. Actually, we have 2 out of 3 armies and 1 out of 2 fleets. So, this button here is our faction. First of all, we have an influence. You can say our influence in the state is determined by the number of senators we have. The more influence we get, the more senators we have, and with senators we can buy things. We can buy special actions. For example, we can assassinate people we don't like, we can promote people we like, we can merge people that we need to get on our side, or we can spread rumors to reduce their influence on the whole empire. If a person gets too important and is not on our side, he might think about picking up a rebellion, and that's not good. By the way, marriage is extremely costly. So, records, this is the known world. For the summary, these are our special abilities. And this is our empire. As soon as this button hits here, we're getting more armies, more fleets, more dignitaries, more spies and more champions. At the moment we have no military allies, we have no defensive allies, we are at war with the Etruscans, and we have a trade partner with the Syracuse. So, objectives. When the game started we were told our primary objectives. We get 2,500 for that. Getting 2 provinces under our control. But now it comes. There are secondary objectives, bonus objectives. If we hold one of these 2 provinces, when we complete our quest, we get 1,000 extra. If we do this by capturing from the Etruscan Liege, we get 1,500 extra. And if we are at war with the Carthagins, we get 1,000 extra. So if we put all that together, we are getting 6,000 instead of 2,500. Cool, isn't it? We have no active missions at the moment. We will get these active missions later on. Trade and finance. This is our tax level. The higher the tax, the more money we get, but the more unhappy the people will be, and the more the people will not reproduce themselves. I personally intend to get the tax level as low as possible. As you see, we have more money, but we need happy people. This is the equivalent of 1 Roman legion to buy per turn, so we put that down. We have 1 less legion, but we will not have any rebellions so far and so soon, and that will spare us keeping an army up in our hometown and our home provinces to prevent enemies from doing stupid things. Trade. At the moment we are only trading with Syracuse. There are special resources, the more the better. Some resources might help us to build special weapons or to build weapons at all, and the more resources we have and the more we are importing and producing, the more people will be interested in doing trades with us, and we get money out of that each turn. That is our summary, our expenses, our income. So, up to technology. We can research in 2 primary branches, military and civil. Every branch is divided into under-branches, you would say, consisting of 2 or 3 technologies. Now the good thing is, if you have all 3 of one branch researched, you get a bonus. 3 food, or -5 corruption, or -3 building construction costs. If you get this up, you get a bonus for every complete branch you have researched. Furthermore, some of them give you the ability to recruit special characters. Well, actually 2 of them. Meaning that one you can recruit dignitaries, and this one you can recruit champions. So this will be our first goals. I will go for the civils. agricultural buildings, because I tend to build agricultural buildings as good as I can and as many as I can, because they give me food, they give me reproduction and growth, and they replenish my units, and will have some losses, by the way. You can simply click on that. As soon as this yellow how do you call this thingies here, oh, don't tell me, Zahnräder we say in German, well, whatever, you know what I mean. That means this is researched and tells you 2 turns and we're done. Here we go. Diplomacy. Well, as you can see, most of them don't like us. In some games you're not told why the people don't like you and why they like you. Here you're told explicitly. Cultural invasion, war with the Tuscan League, military against Carthago, trespassing, and treaties with Syracuse. Well, they hate us right from the bottom of their hearts. Not as evil as that guys, of course. They really don't like us. This little thing here means we're trading. This means we can trade if we get them to that point, and that means we cannot trade to them because we have no sea route to them. For example, we can ask the Athens for a trade agreement. But the computer says chances of success are low because we don't have anything to offer to them. We could give them money, for example, but no, we're not doing that at the beginning because we'll do this at the end of the turn when we see how much money we have left, and if we can conquer some towns, maybe even a town with a port, we may have more resources to offer them for the trade. So let's wait with that. By this button we can see the events. This button shows us the armies we have operational. This shows us our provinces. This shows us our faction relations. A sword means, of course, we're at war. Down here we see our current money. This is what we will get next turn. This is our actual food, and that is the time. Putting this button means we go next turn. We only do this when we've done everything else. This brings us to doing things. Who does the things? Well, our generals do, of course. This is one of our generals. So, you see these numbers, the higher the better. 3 is average. 3 means you get no bonus, you get no malus. So, if this gets 1 higher, you get a special ability. Let's see if we have someone who has that in our group. No, of course not. Let's see if we have a general to recruit that has a bonus. Yes, this one has. Okay. See, no special ability. Here he has 4. He gets a special ability. Authority, more than 3, will enable you to command in a greater radius when you are in battle. Your commander can give special orders, but only in a distance, in a special distance. The more higher the authority, the greater is his range. And he gets a special ability, or even more if the number gets over 7, more than 1, to inspire his troops. Cunning will enable him to avoid enemy agents, poisoning, slitting throats, and all that stuff. Zeal will give his man the ability to fight harder, and his own unit will fight harder, so I find this very attractive. Let's look at our general. This green bar here is his movement. The more we move, the lesser we have. If it reaches down here, we cannot move anymore. This is his experience level. The more stars, the more experienced he is. Every general has a special ability. Some are good, some are negative. This one here reduces the slave unrest by 20%, and that's about it. This is his army. What is there to know about armies? Well, each troop has a cost, upkeep cost. 90 here, 90 there, 90 there, 70 here, and 50 here. This is, by the way, one of the differences to mercenaries. Mercenaries cost 5 times the upkeep normal state troops do. For those interested in history, the Hastati are the less experienced, less equipped troops in the Roman Republic legion. As these are not professional soldiers, they have to dress themselves, equip themselves, and feed themselves. The state is not doing that. So, the more money you have in the Roman Republic, the better your equipment and the better your position in the army is. So, if you have low money, you are Hastati. If you have more money, you are Princeps. If you have even more money and you are experienced in battle, you will become a Trinari. Meaning you will get better armor, a spear and a shield, and a seat in the back. You're only going to battle if the other two are failing. The Romans have very little experience in ranged fighters. They have no good bowmen, they have no good horsemen. The only thing they have are throwing spears, sorry. We have the better ones, the Felites, and we have the worst ones, the Leves. Well, but they'll have to do. You see all the stats? More to that later on. You see that each unit has special abilities. These are the little red images in the left corner. You see? Different. What they do, we'll see in battle later on. Each army can perform special stances. They are very, very useful. And they're not used by any player. Some may not know of that. First of all, this is the forced march ability. You can move double the distance in a turn. Negative is you cannot recruit any forces and you cannot initiate battles. That does not mean you cannot take part in a battle. If you're near enough to a fighting army, you join the battle even if you're not initiated. We'll see that later. We can do some raiding. We'll do that if we are on enemy territory, of course. So our troops will cost less and be more happy, and the enemies are, well, discouraged and tend to rebel easier. While this one here doubles our movement, this one here halves our movement. We can set an ambush. If we're sure the enemy is coming our way, we can do that. And the moment he enters our action radius, each army has one. This is this red circle. Someone who goes into that will be attacked. Or he cannot move through that red circle unless he attacks us, so we're effectively blocking him. Sorry, we're not automatically attacking, also except we're in ambush mode. And fortify. The Romans have this habit to build a camp when they stop marching for a day, and they do not build a camp, you know, the pathfinding style. They make a fortress out of that. They're not the first ones to do it. The Egyptians did that long time before them, and the Etruscans did that, but they perfected it, you might say. They built little fortress with a special order. Every soldier knows his place. They always look the same, and they built them the same way every time. And so, in a case of an emergency, every soldier knows where to go, and where he is, and how the camp is built. That's very useful. We can see details. Each army has a tradition. The more battles it wins or participates, the more traditions it will get. These traditions can be, for example, better siege engines, more range damage, more melee damage, bonus on movement, all that. And we can get that by fighting experience, like an RPG. Our general has an RPG, you might say. He can get traits, they can be positive or negative. He can get nuts, he can get bloodthirsty, he can be a wise man and give us a bonus. Everything's possible. He has an age, the higher the more likely he'll die of age. Ambition, well, how much he's after the throne. And gravitas, well, that's his political influence. He's not married at the moment, and he has no personal household. Later on we will get household people, slaves, bodyguards, personal advisors, and we can give them to the generals, and they will get bonuses from this household people. And everyone has one starting skill, and they will get more skills the better they get from time to time. So, each general can recruit troops. You can recruit troops regarding the facilities, the recruiting facilities that are in the province you are at the moment. Meaning, this province here, Italia, has barracks, so we can recruit Hastati and Philitis here. Magna Graeca does not have that, so if we get recruiting here, we will only get levies. If we build a military installation, for example in Brundisium, we will get soldiers and Hastati here as well. Each province has its own pool of mercenaries. For example, Italian spearmen. You see, they are not very costly. They cost 180 coin, but their upkeep is 240. There are always also Italian cavalry here, but they cannot be recruited at the moment, which means there are, well, I think occupied by someone else, or simply not available, but you can get them here if the time is right and if they are available. And look at their upkeep cost. Terrible. For example, if we ask Magna Graeca what soldiers, what mercenaries we can get here, here is the cavalry. And there are hoplites and peltasts and hoplites and, well, a hell of a lot. But only these ones are available. And if you look at the upkeep, 560, you get my point. Best thing is with mercenaries, buy them for the battle when you need them and let them go after the battle before you end the turn, so you not have to pay them. Normally they're still available next round, so if you need them, you can buy them back for that round. So, we also have agents. Agents have the same stats, except the less the authority, the more their actions cost. And the more seal they have, the less they're wounded. Each one has special abilities as well. We can look at him. So, this is a little bit he has a positive ability to be a criminal, so his agent actions cost less. Negative effect is his authority is so low that it consumes some of the benefit we get from his positive skill. Each agent and each special character can do a stance, like the generals can do the marching or fortifying thing. The agents can do this, find enemy agents and neutralize them, and prevent enemy agents from doing bad things. So, our general, as you can see, can go to sea if there's a harbor nearby. His troops will then enter ships. They're not that vulnerable on sea as in the last games. They will be using Roman warships, depending on the type of their army. But we also have sea troops. And sea troops, fleets, can attack cities or armies that are nearby the coast. So we can do amphibious operations if we need to. Let's have a look at our general, shall we? He has a special ability. -10 upkeep for all land units. He has no land units. -10 upkeep for all ships. That's wonderful. They have no traditions, sure, because there are no battles at the moment. And this is his special ability. That's nice. So he will have a big fleet, I hope, because we pay less for that. He can recruit ships, but only small ships, because we have a very small and useless harbor, and there are no mercenaries. What do I like about this starting fleet? Even if we do not have the technology for legionaries at the moment, because the legionary is an invention of Marius. Well, he did not invent it, but he was the main character in the transition from an civil army of civilians that pick up arms if needed to a professional army. And these are the legionaries. We're a little bit out of time, but strangely this general here, Brutus, has legionaries as his personal troops. So put more to the fleets later on. Let's look at our last general and his special ability. Minus public order penalties from foreign cultures. So he is perfectly suited for conquering enemy provinces, as the provinces will not be that unhappy. If we recruit troops, we cannot move, so we do that at the end of the round. If we're attacking someone, we'll do that in the beginning of the round if we need mercenaries, because then we'll have them in the battle that moment we need them. Troops we recruit will only appear at the end, at the beginning of the next round. So, let's have a look around here. The yellow is the place where we can go. So I think we start our first fight, don't you think? And I think it will be a sea battle. And I think that will be the next episode. Until then, bye.